Keystone Cops.
All right, guys, how are you all doing today? I'm going to kind of combine a couple of videos because I don't think it's going to take me a long time. I'm going to pretty much be revisiting this Hogue RSK MK1 G2. Yeah, too many letters and numbers. I usually just call it the RSK, the Hogue RSK. Not to be confused with the Benchmade version of the Ritter knife. This here is the TRM Atom. And this is just the knife I happen to be carrying today, and I'm going to make some comparisons as I go along. So let me go ahead and get started. Oh, let me go ahead and say these were provided to me and to us as a group. It was provided to me by the Apex Pass Around group, and it was provided to the Apex Pass Around group. They were provided to the Apex Pass Around group via TRM and via Hogue. So thank you to TRM and thank you to Hogue. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the TRM over here. You can see that the TRM is in gray G10. As this knife sits here in my hand, it is currently out of stock. It is $189. Unfortunately, I wanted this knife when I first saw it. I did not get a chance to go by and see it at Blade. Unfortunately, it's not as great as I had hoped. My initial thoughts, and this is just how I feel about the knife, guys. First of all, as far as fit and finish, you can see here, I'll show you a close-up. There isn't anything that seems off per se, at least on this part of the knife. And there's nothing that is off that I don't think you can fix yourself. And you'll have to kind of forgive me. With these pass around knives, we can't really use them, so you're just kind of getting a tabletop today. You can see the blade is centered here. It is a proprietary pattern pocket clip, steel, folded clip. Does its job just fine. I do think it's a bit proud, and it pokes me in the hand a bit, so that's a little bit of a hot spot. I also find that right here, you can kind of see there's not a lot of a chamfer on these edges here. And when you open this knife up and you're going to use it, that's right where your finger is going to go. And that's going to be an issue. I can already tell you that without having a lot of use on the knife. The thumb studs, they are unique. I know when it first came out, someone asked about, were these kind of sharp? I think if you use this like a knife and you're not, just flicking it like it's a fidget toy, they're fine. They're not too sharp. They do their job. They allow you a good purchase. You can see that this blade finish is very nice. It looks like it's a fine stone wash. However, while we're looking at the blade, I'll show you something else that kind of jumped out to me. Now, to the best of my knowledge, these knives are hand sharpened, or I guess I shouldn't say hand sharpened as in on a stone freehand sharpened. They are sharpened individually, one by one individual human being. You can see here, there we go. You can see here the bevel on this side, and you can kind of see how wide it is right here. And then when you flip it over on the other side, you can see that it doesn't really line up all that well. So you can fix that, but that's just a note that I had about the knife. Another thing that I noticed when I was looking around the knife is while they were treating the lock face, it kind of ran over onto the lock bar itself. So, maybe that's a deal for you. Maybe that's not a deal. Like I said, this is a $189 knife. There are scales. You can swap these scales out. The scales do fit over the pivot, which is a unique design. So you just remove these two screws and remove the two screws over here. Obviously the pocket clip as well. And then you can just slip these scales over the frame of the knife. With all of that being said, honestly, I know that TRM is an OEM. They do make parts. They do provide parts and knives for other manufacturers, but this feels very much like a parts knife to me. It feels kind of like it was assembled from off-the-shelf parts. And I know that they put a lot of time and energy into this. I don't mean that as an insult. But when I picked this up, that is my honest first opinion of this knife. It feels cold. It feels like it was pieced together. It's more of a bunch of parts put together to make a knife than one cohesive knife. You know, this clip kind of pokes out. The behind the edge thickness. Again, this blade it gives the impression that it's going to be a great slicer. But if you look at this, it is, well, at that point, let's measure it back here. It is, let's call it 90 thousandths actual blade stock, which is very thin for blade stock, pretty thin for blade stock. But if you start looking at the behind the edge thickness, you can see here that it's, let's see if we can get it in focus. It's 20 thousandths there, and I'll see if I can show you guys. There we go. It's in focus. 20 thousandths behind the edge. And if you come out a little bit farther, it is 22 thousandths. And again, I'll kind of give you guys show you guys where I'm at. So there you are. And out here at the tip, let's see, I think I'm too far down. It's hard to do this behind the camera, guys. I'm sorry. And if you look here at the tip, it is 16 and a half thousandths. And again, I'll show you guys kind of where the calipers are. So you can see there where the calipers are. Now, that's not bad, but with a blade this thin, you would think that it would be very thin behind the edge, less than 20 thousandths, maybe in the 15 thousandths range, to help you gain some of the advantages of having a thinner blade stock to really be a good slicer. You look at a knife like this and you can kind of compare those blade stocks. You can see there's a notable difference, and we'll see that the behind the edge thickness really isn't all that different here. So you've got a knife that is 123 thousandths blade stock. So what, 30 thousandths thicker? So 1/3 thicker. And if you look behind the edge, and I'm not going to go down the whole edge here. Well, I will. It's 20 thousandths here. And I'll show you guys if I can get it to focus. There it is, where the calipers are at. Right here. It is 22 and a half out towards the tip. And you can see where the calipers are at. And then back here at the heel, we have 19 and a half thousandths. And you can kind of see where the calipers are at there. And that may even be down a little bit farther than anyone would usually measure. And if we switch over to this, look at the stock thickness between these two knives. You can see there's a very significant difference in stock thickness between these two knives. However, you'll see once again that behind the edge, there's not that much of a difference. So let's measure back here. We've got 136 thousandths blade stock. And if we measure the edge, behind the edge, we've got 23 thousandths here. We've got 20 thousandths right out in the middle area of the blade. So where you're going to do the majority of your cutting. And out here at towards the tip, you've got 22 and a half thousandths. And you can see where the caliper's at there. So you can see, even though there's a huge difference in the stock thickness between these two knives, let me use this as a backdrop. You can see that behind the edge, there's not that much of a difference. So you're not going to get the cutting performance you might expect seeing how thin this blade stock is. So that's kind of a letdown. Overall, I don't know that I would spend $189 on this knife, but it is an interesting knife. It is good to see another American option out there, but it just feels a little cold. It feels like it's more of a parts knife. It feels like it was assembled from a bunch of parts off of a shelf. Again, I know that they put a lot of time and research into this knife and machining, so I don't mean to offend, but again, that's my honest opinion, and I'm going to give it to you. The edge bevel, even though these knives are sharpened by hand by one individual, they are on a machine. Again, on a machine, not on a stone. The bevels are pretty far off. The lock face has a decent amount of, well, you can see from where the lock face was treated on the actual lock bar itself. You can see there where they kind of overshot a little bit. The chamfering here, you can see it's pretty square. There is some chamfering, but it's not a lot. The behind the edge thickness, the pocket clip, at $189, I could not recommend this as a purchase for me, but it may be something you're interested in. With all of that negative out of the way, this is more of a revisit of this knife. I actually owned one of these, and this is just as good as I remember. You've got the 20 CV steel here. Oh, this is also 20 CV steel. Don't recall the hardness off the top of my head, so you'll have to forgive me for that. If I do recall, I'll add it down below. This is 20 CV as well. I already gave you the measurements for the blade. I don't know if I did the thickness. I'm pretty sure I did the thickness. It's 122 thousandths for the thickness of the blade stock. This one is one of the newer ones with the orange handles. You can see all of that machining here. You can see the inserts in the G10. This is G10, by the way, if I did not say that. This does have an axis-like lock that is called the Able lock. This is in collaboration with Doug Ritter. So you can see there, this is in collaboration with Doug Ritter. It does have some thumb studs that give you good purchase. You can flick this knife out. This knife is not dropping, but the one I had before did. It's a full-size knife. It does have some of that bulge of a knife like the Griptilian, but it doesn't have that super bulbous feel that I don't like about the Griptilian. With that said, I'll jump straight to the next comparison. This is $159, brand new, whereas the equivalent of this knife in the Benchmade format, 20 CV, Griptilian size, drop point blade, is $189. So you have a $39 difference. Benchmade pretty much is an automated process. This knife here, it is a smaller company, and the finishing, definitely, especially with the sharpening, is done by hand. So, there's some give and take there. I really like this knife. When we ran this knife, not this one in particular, but we ran the other one I had, it was right around 60, 61 HRC, performed well. There were some issues with the difference between 15 and 17 degrees per side, but still it performed above the other 20 CV, M390, 20 CP knives that are out there on the market. So it's hard not to like this knife. The only thing that would be a knock against it for me would be the pocket clip. Also does dig into my hand a little bit, but again, this is not a proprietary pattern. You can use an Emerson clip here, which I believe I did end up switching to an Emerson clip, so I didn't have that much of a loop over style clip. I know some people just don't like the deep carry aspect. I found this loop a little bit too wide and kind of dug into my hand, so I did switch over to an Emerson style clip. The only other thing that I could ask for out of this would be, and if you're watching this, Knife Center, because I know this is a Knife Center exclusive, if you're watching this, Doug Ritter, I would love to see this. Or Hogue, if you're watching this, if it's not this knife, maybe the EX01 in a tool steel, I'd buy another one instantly. That's pretty much all I can say on that. So hope I didn't ramble too much in this one. Like I said, this one I can't really recommend. Hogue and Hogue overall, it's just an amazing value for the money. You're really getting a lot. This is an excellent knife. The steel is done well. The fit and finish is done awesomely. Let me show you that centering. You can see here the centering of the blade. It's just all that milling. It's really just a well done knife. There's not a lot to complain about here. Like I said, that pocket clip is a little bit proud, but it's not a proprietary pattern, so you can switch over to something like another Benchmade style clip, or a Benchmade style clip would be a better way to say that, or an Emerson style clip, and it's just a great knife overall. I really do recommend this knife. I would like to see it in a tool steel. That would make my day, but anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I really didn't mean for this to go 15 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you all in the next video. Remember, a lazy man carries a dull knife.